on this Ekadashi day, starting this time out with all of us together. We'll start with our Mangala Charna, of course. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So welcome to all of the wonderful assembled devotees. I was thinking about preparing for this lecture, and because Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja just passed, I could not help but reflect upon the amazing gifts that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and we'll get into more of those as we speak about the glories of Ekadashi. But one in particular that I was thinking about and extremely grateful for, I was thinking about the spiritual discernment that Srila Prabhupada gave us. He gave us such a wealth of spiritual discernment and a sort of spiritual common sense that I hope and pray that we develop and then never ever let go of. So we'll begin with this, the glories of Anada Ekadashi. Sri Yudhishthira Maharaj said, O Janardhan Krishna, protector of all living entities, please tell me the name of the Ekadashi that occurs during the dark fortnight of the month of Bhadrapad, August-September. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna then replied, O king, hear me attentively. The name of this sin-removing sacred Ekadashi is Aja. Any person who fasts completely on this day and worships Rishikesh, the master of the senses, becomes free of all reactions to his sins. Even one who simply hears about this Ekadashi is freed from his past sins. O king, there is no better day than this in all the earthly and heavenly worlds. This is true without a doubt. There once lived a famous king named Harishchandra, who was the emperor of the world and a person of great truth and integrity. His wife's name was Chandramati, and he had a son named Loitashva. By the force of destiny, however, Harishchandra lost his great kingdom and sold his wife and son. The pious king himself became a menial servant of a dog-eater who made him a guardian, or guard, at a crematorium. Yet even while doing such menial service, he did not forsake his truthfulness and good character, just as somaras, the nectar of the gods, even when mixed with some other liquid, does not lose its ability to bestow immortality. The king passed many years in this condition. Then one day, he sadly thought, what shall I do? Where shall I go? How can I be delivered from this plight? In this way, he drowned in an ocean of anxiety and sorrow. One day, a great sage happened by, and when the king saw him, he happily thought, Lord Brahma has created Brahmins just to help others. Harishchandra paid his respectful obeisances to the sage, whose name was Gautam Muni. With joined palms, the king stood before Gautam Muni and narrated his pitiful story. Gautam Muni was astonished to hear the king's tale of woe. He thought, how has this mighty king been reduced to collecting clothes from the dead? Gautam Muni became very much compassionate toward Harishchandra and instructed him on the process of fasting for purification. Gautam Muni said, O king, during the dark fortnight of the month of Bhadrapad, there occurs an especially meritorious Ekadashi named Aja, another, which removes all sins. Indeed, this Ekadashi is so auspicious that if you simply fast on that day and perform no other austerity, all your sins will be nullified. By your good fortune, it is coming in just 7 days. So I urge you to fast on this day and remain awake throughout the night. If you do so, all the reactions of your past sins will come to an end. O Harishchandra, I have come here because of your past pious deeds. Now all good fortune to you in the future. So saying, the great sage, Sri Gautam Muni, immediately disappeared. King Harishchandra followed Gautam Muni's instructions concerning fasting on the sacred day of Aja Ekadashi. O Maharaj Yudhishthir, because the king fasted on that day, the reactions to his previous sins were completely destroyed at once. O lion among kings, just see the influence of this Ekadashi fast. It immediately vanquishes whatever miseries one may be suffering as a result of past karmic sinful activities. Thus, all Harishchandra's miseries were relieved. Just by the power of this wonderful Ekadashi, he was reunited with his wife and son who had died, but were now revived. In the heavenly regions, the Devas, demigods, began beating on their celestial kettle drums and showering down flowers upon Harishchandra, his queen, and their son. By the blessings of the Ekadashi fast, he regained his kingdom without difficulty. Moreover, when King Harishchandra left the planet, his relatives and all his subjects too went with him to the spiritual world. O Pandava, whoever fasts on Aja Ekadashi is surely freed from all his sins and ascends to the spiritual world, and whosoever hears and studies the glories of this Ekadashi achieves the merit gained by performing a horse sacrifice. Thus ends the glories of Aja Ekadashi, as told to Yudhishthir by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then explained, I think it is in the Bhavishya Purana. Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So as the great Gautam Muni was saying, that he had somehow happened to come upon the king Harishchandra just when he needed it, to tell him of the glories of Ekadashi just when he needed it, all because of his past pious deeds, we can reflect on the fact that Srila Prabhupada came at a time just when we needed it, exactly when we needed to know about all of these things, just to give us the great fortune of Krishna consciousness, somehow or other, by our past pious good deeds. Somehow good fortune has come upon us in the form of Srila Prabhupada and his wonderful instructions and his incredible negotiations. We don't have to do all of the incredible tapasya that has been done for millions of years before. Somehow or other, we are told to simply keep a fast on Ekadashi. And then when it comes to not eating anything, okay, fine, drink a little water. Okay, fine, you can't do that, take some fruits. Okay, fine, you can't do that, you need more. Just fast from grains, beans, legumes. This process has been made incredibly simple. It is almost laughably simple. And I was reflecting on the spiritual discernment that Srila Prabhupada gave, and then our own arrogance. King Harishchandra is spoken about within the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And as I was preparing for this lecture and reading the past stories of King Harishchandra, I was thinking, wow, he went through a lot. But it begins, he needs a son, and so he prays to Varuna, the god of the seas and water, all of the liquids that inhabit this planet. And he prays to him, does all kinds of sacrifices, and desires a son. Varuna Dev says, I'll give you a son. King Harishchandra says, if you give me a son, I promise that I will offer him back to you in sacrifice when he's born. And I could not help but think a little bit of Rumpelstiltskin. Like, he wishes he could. but definitely not as cool as Varuna. So if you give me the son, I'll offer the son back in sacrifice. Varuna Dev says, so be it. Gives him a son. And then King Harishchandra is very happy with this son, and Varuna comes and says, well, now it is time to give me the son. And King Harishchandra names this son Rohit. He says, well, when you come for a sacrifice, you should at least wait until that sacrifice is ready to be made. Come back in about 10 days. He's not ready yet. Varuna Dev comes back, much like Rumpelstiltskin wishes he could. And he says, now it's time. 10 days have passed. Give me the son. He says, well, when a sacrificial animal has gained teeth, then they can be said to be purified enough to be given in sacrifice. Come back then. Varuna Dev waits till the child has teeth. He comes back. Where's my sacrifice? King Harishchandra says, well, wait until these milk teeth fall out. Varuna Dev comes back when the milk teeth fall out. Harishchandra says, wait until he gets teeth again. So now all of the adult teeth have come in. Varuna Dev comes to exact his price. And Maharaj Harishchandra says, well, you should wait until he has been given enough knowledge to be able to defend himself, and then he will be of some use to you. Varuna Dev is incredibly patient. So incredibly patient. He goes to wait again. And at this point, King Harishchandra sends the child with bows and arrows to the forest, trying to somehow hide this boy. Go grow up in the forest, learn everything that you can, and stay there until I can figure out some sort of method to fix this entire situation. Rohit is in the forest, and after about a year, he thinks, let me go back to my father. I don't see how there can be any remedy to this issue. Indra comes in disguise as a Brahmin and says, no, you shouldn't go home yet. Go on pilgrimage to many different places and then come back, and then we'll see what happens. So he goes on pilgrimage for a year. But the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, 6 years, Indra keeps coming as a Brahmin in disguise and doing all of these things and telling him all the reasons why he shouldn't go back home. And so 6 years pass. And he is now a young man, very capable. But still, it seems as though there isn't quite a remedy to this situation. And so finally, what he does is, Rohit finds a person who is quite poor, and he purchases that person's son. And it says that he purchases the middle child, not the oldest, not the youngest. And within the Mahabharata, we hear of this a lot. This sacrificing the middle child. And Bhima comes in contact with the family, and he's not quite happy about that arrangement. Him being a middle child is not very happy with this arrangement. How can you sacrifice the middle child, saying that they're less important? They are not the father's favorite because they're not the oldest. They're not the mother's favorite because they're not the youngest. And so the middle child has no place within the family. How can you? What is this nonsense? And so we hear of this purchasing of this middle child, whose name is Shunasepa, which he becomes known later on as Devarata. And so Shunasepa is kind of a mouthful. So we'll refer to him as Devarata for now. And so he purchases this middle son, Devarata, brings him back to King Harishchandra, and King Harishchandra says, perfect, we will sacrifice this person instead of you. And so what happens is, the reason he has to come back is because Varuna Dev finally is tired of waiting. And he afflicts King Harishchandra with dropsy, or full body edema, which I think is incredibly poetic. As the god of water and the seas, he gets all of this inflammation within all of his tissues, fluid buildup within all of his body. King Harishchandra has this extended stomach. Everything is bloated. He is suffering heavily. And finally, Rohit decides we have to do something to remedy the situation, purchases Devarata, brings him back, and then they make a sacrifice. And this whole time, I am kind of mortified by the whole situation. And Srila Prabhupada makes a very valid point that it seems as though the purchasing and selling of human beings is not a new concept. We think that there are so many things within this world that are going on now in Kali Yuga, and we tend to think, oh, this is new stuff, this is Kali Yuga stuff. We've come with some really new lows. Nothing is new. That is once again our arrogance. We like to think that we have somehow made some new evil or come up with some new ways to lord it over each other. And this has been going on for millenniums, millions of years. This has been happening. So nothing is new. And I was kind of wondering, what in the world happens to this sacrificed human? You mean to tell me we just sacrificed the human and then what? But Srimad Bhagavatam never lets us down, which also made me remember to let Krishna finish the story. And it also reminded me that I come to Srimad Bhagavatam with all of my modern day sensibilities that I think are modern day, and I put my spin on it about what I think is right and what I think is wrong. One of the brahmanas that King Harishchandra engages in performing these sacrifices is Maharaj Vishwamitra, who used to be a Kshatriya and then became a Brahmin. And so he is performing this sacrifice, and along with him is the sage Vashishta. Both of them feature heavily within the Ramayana. And so Vishwamitra does not think that this Devarata should be sacrificed. He sees him and he sees some incredible qualities within him, some shining characteristics. And so he prays to the gods to save this Devarata. And indeed they do. They decide to take the essence, the meaning of the sacrifice without sacrificing the person. Vishwamitra then adopts this Devarata, who is so named because Devarata means the gift of the gods. At the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit is also given the name Vishnurata because he is a gift from Lord Vishnu, saved personally by the Lord. And so now this Devarata, who's been saved by the gods, Vishwamitra decides to adopt him as one of his sons. He makes him one of the foremost of his sons, which is very incredible. And so I really like that Srimad Bhagavatam is, hold on now, let the Lord finish the story. Let them finish, which was very huge for my own life, because sometimes we find ourselves in very, very tricky situations. And we think, this has got to be the end. I don't know how this could get any better. And it looks as though everything is against us. And sometimes we have to let Krishna finish the pastime. We have to see what else he has in store for us. But on the topic of spiritual discernment, we often hear from Srila Prabhupada not to engage in the worship of the demigods. And if we need something, within the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says within one of the purports, if there's anything that you need, you had better ask for it from Krishna. We are spending all of this time creating, recreating, reestablishing, reinvigorating our relationship with Krishna. And so if we need something, we should go to Krishna for it and not anyone else. Now, our spiritual discernment can sometimes turn into our arrogance, where we think, oh yeah, it's because the unintelligent worship the demigods. See, we stopped at that sentence and we forgot to finish the rest of the pastime. We get hung up on the less intelligent worship the demigods. And so I have to be more intelligent than that, which means that somehow now we've created a hierarchy. And really, what I'm understanding, the more that I read Srimad Bhagavatam and the more that I dive deeply into these pastimes, these histories, is that it's not that the demigods are less intelligent. It's that we are less intelligent and we don't understand the kind of currency that we're working with. Number one, we don't even understand the kind of sacrifice that is needed to propitiate the different demigods. We don't understand the kind of wealth that it took in previous yugas, the kinds of austerities that were necessary in order to gain the attention of the demigods. In fact, Gajendra was stuck within the mouth of the crocodile, and he's calling out to the Supreme Personality for help. And even the demigods are now saying, actually, maybe we should help you. Because do you know what it takes to get the attention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He is continuously wrapped in meditation. His yoga nidra is unending. Do you know what it even takes to gain the attention of the Supreme Person? Let us help you. It would be better if we could give you some assistance rather than you trying to hold out for Lord Vishnu. You could be here for forever. And Gajendra is so staunch. I don't want anyone else's help. I only want the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. And the demigods begin to deride him. You foolish, foolish elephant. Do you really think that the Lord will stop everything that he is doing for you? Really? What do you have that we don't have? And it is at that moment that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, riding on the back of Garuda. And within the pages of Padyavali and Vaishnav poets have spoken that the Lord was so eager to run and help his devotees that in this case of saving Gajendra, he doesn't even put on his shoes. So he jumps on the back of Garuda, and Garuda is now in extreme ecstasy because the Lord, who normally has his shoes on and all of his royal regalia and paraphernalia, now his lotus feet have made direct contact with his back. Something that people are yearning for, dreaming of. So this spiritual discernment is to protect us. It is not meant to make us arrogant and think that we have so much more knowledge than the rest of the cosmic universe. In fact, we have been given a lot more knowledge than the rest of the cosmic universe, which is incredible. Because sometimes then we take all of that knowledge for granted. But it is there to protect us. Because once we enter into these contracts with very powerful spiritual entities, we owe them. And in the case of King Harishchandra, he owed Varuna. And Varuna was extremely patient, which I thought was incredible. But when that patience ran out, we could see the effect that it had on King Harishchandra's body. King Harishchandra then goes on to perform this sacrifice with Maharaj Vishwamitra. And as the dakshin payment at the end of this sacrifice, it comes that Vishwamitra asks King Harishchandra for his entire kingdom, which kicks off the tale that we heard of, where he loses his kingdom, wife, another son, and then they die. And then he has to fast on Ekadashi in order to get everything back. What I do love is that when everything is against King Harishchandra, there's still somehow a way to get it all back. Somehow falling at the feet of merciful Vaishnavas who are willing to just give whatever knowledge they have as a form of charity, as a form of goodwill, as a form of blessings, to somehow give the best advice and simply say, there's an Ekadashi coming. You can change everything with just one day. If you do that one day of fasting and somehow you do nothing else, this Ekadashi will benefit you greater than anything I could ever give you. We have heard from so many glories of Ekadashis that fasting on Ekadashi gives unending wealth, not only this life, but in the next, because it gives a spiritual wealth that follows us closer than a shadow, follows us closer than the impressions made upon our soul for lifetimes. These Ekadashis help us regain a little bit of our memory of what it was like when we were in full consciousness of our relationship with our supreme friend, Shri Krishna. And I was always a little bit jealous of Yudhishthir, being able to sit down with Krishna whenever he wanted and ask whatever question he wanted, and have Krishna spend as much time as was needed to answer that question. But Srila Prabhupada has given us the next best thing. And sometimes that thing is even greater than having Krishna personally with us. Because when we are yearning for that association with Krishna, and there is some seeming separation, Srimati Radharani says herself that choosing between having pastimes with Krishna present and those pastimes when Krishna is away from her, she would choose the latter. For when she is with Krishna, there is only one Krishna in front of her. But when there are pastimes in separation, there is a Krishna in everything, everywhere. It is impossible to get away from him. So when I think to myself that I have a question, that I wish I could sit down in a beautiful royal garden and ask Krishna like Maharaj Yudhishthira, all I have to do is ask Srimad Bhagavatam. And thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we have so much. We have everything. We have a word-for-word transliteration, which no one else was giving. But Srila Prabhupada understood how much we would need. We would need common sense. We would need spiritual discernment. We would need a loving curbing of our arrogance. And we would need someone who is willing to negotiate for us. Become an advocate and a lawyer, because we were going to need a lot of loopholes. But somehow or other, Srila Prabhupada has found so many loopholes and continues to find them for all of us. Not because he needed it. He was already set. He could have stayed at Radha Damodar in Vrindavan with his entire life and spiritual life completely set. But somehow for us, just like Gautam Rishi, he considered it his greater fortune to come and tell us about Krishna, to come and give us the gift of following Ekadashi. Even simply hearing or studying the glories of Ekadashi gives untold benefits. So I find myself incredibly grateful and very lovingly protected by Srila Prabhupada, who tells us, look, if there's anything that you want or desire, you had better go and ask Krishna for it. Because anyone else, we don't know that currency. And when the price comes to be paid, then we'll find ourselves running to Krishna, asking him, what have I gotten myself into? Can you help me pay the price? So better that we cut out all of the middle section and just get to the really, really good part of the story, where we beg Krishna for miracles and blessings. And then, as Lord Brahma says, we wait with faith, expecting Krishna's mercy. Once we are praying to Krishna and then expecting his mercy, which means that we have some faith that only Krishna can maintain and protect us. Somehow, once we do that, it becomes our rightful claim to enter into Krishna's loving spiritual abode. I wish you all the most happy Ekadashi, praying that we can all fast together and somehow tell each other of the untold benefits that we gain just by fasting on each and every one of these Ekadashis. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ekadashi Devi ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Acyuta Gopi, wonderful class. Thank you. Krishna Kumari has her hand up.
Wow, I'm just blown away. For one, I'm so grateful that I have to do nothing else today but follow Ekadashi. It's like, it's the best. It's the best gift you could give me when you feel like, oh, I got so much to do. And I also was just thinking of you, Acyuta, in details. When you were a little girl, I would say, what color was Govinda's earrings? And what shape was his ring? And what color was Radharani's, the ribbon on her bouquet? Acyuta always had her hand raised, maybe age 7. And I love the story of Gajendra. In fact, when I was having my first baby, I painted the ceiling clouds and got a big elephant and a crocodile. But this detail you gave today is like the best takeaway that, here he is, no shoes, riding on Kurta's back. It's like I never heard that. And I'm just so grateful that I have another detail to this beautiful pastime. Thank you with all my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. Fun fact, Krishna Kumari was one of my first Sunday school teachers. And so she has officially known me for over 30 years. And she's seen me grow. And I would remember Gaur Govinda Maharaj would come for the summer. And my parents are Gaur Govinda Maharaj disciples. And so we would follow Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And I would always come back from like whatever travels, eager to recite whatever like new verse or verses I had learned. I remember feeling like so incredibly proud and excited, ready to show whatever new thing I had learned. So thank you. Job well done then. I'm gonna take all of this as blessings, unlimited blessings.
Hare Krishna, Acyuta Gopi, and thank you for this class. I was thinking during the description of the Ekadashi story for today that this king kind of loses his kingdom, his family, has this undesirable task to perform, and the text says that he never forsakes his good character. So kind of selfishly reflecting on that and thinking about the activities that are probably less than desirable that I perform on a daily basis, that there's still kind of hope for a fallen person. And I appreciate that aspect of the story, and was, I guess, curious, because, again, selfishly, we, in the kind of egotistical humility, we recognize how fallen we are. But, I'm not eating dogs today, thankfully. And so it's interesting to see these stories of those who have lost everything, not just material possessions, but also kind of their way, so to speak. And if you could just speak on, ways to right the ship, in addition to turning towards God on Ekadashi or special days, but on unspecial days or days that feel unspecial.
Yeah.
How to reflect and remind ourselves to get back to that place.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really brave and wonderful question, because I don't necessarily see it as, it's not selfish. It's kind of like self-preservation. The way I like to think of it is really I can't help but think of, okay, but what about me? Because I'm not King Harishchandra. So then what does that mean for me? And then I thought, I was like, well, you could engage in the buying and selling and then sacrificing of another human to appease the gods, and somehow that is not a blight on your characteristics. And so I think that sometimes we've been a little too harsh on ourselves about what exactly is a blight on our characteristics. We are struggling with the mind, but so is everyone. We are struggling with birth, death, old age, and disease, and so is everyone. We are struggling with so many of the things. We are struggling with loss of sometimes house, wealth, job, family. And we see that, yeah, we're not alone in that struggle. And so maybe that's not necessarily a blight on our character. What I also was really thinking about in terms of these pastimes is that when we get involved with so much cosmic, karmic activity, we have impressions from previous lives. We are in lineages from previous lifetimes that we don't even remember. But you know who does remember? The demigods, because they can see lives longer than we can. And so sometimes we are dealing with karma that is following us from God knows where. And this is why I feel like the most wonderful thing is Krishna constantly is saying, okay, cool, abandon all of that. Just stick with me. I can right the ship. Right? So sometimes we're like, well, how am I going to right this ship? I can't right this ship on my own. It's already too far gone. Krishna says, it doesn't matter. I can right the ship. Just stick with me. Because, you know, who else never was forsaking their truthfulness and their character? Karna. And by all means, if we're looking at the trajectory of this story, everything should have turned out okay for Karna. And yet it didn't. Because the Supreme Person went to Karna and said, just stick with me. You cannot fix this ship, but I can. Just stick with me. And Karna says, but I have to stick with my truthfulness and my character and my friend, and I've got all this dharma. And he's like, I am the maker of dharma. I promise you. And if you just stick with me, it does not matter who you were born to or who you were not born to. It doesn't matter what characteristics you have or you think you don't have. It doesn't matter what qualities you think you have or the qualities you don't think you have. The moment that you stick with me and you surrender to my plan, I promise I'll give you everything. I'll give you a kingdom better than any that you could have ever had. I will give you the Pandavas as your slaves if you want them. You could marry Draupadi. I will give you everything. And somehow or other, Karna just can't make that leap. And I think to myself, can I just make that leap? I know it is a tough situation to look at who we are and all of the stuff that is in our hearts and then say, how do I get through this? We can't. We can't. But with the mercy of Guru and the mercy of Krishna, Krishna can. And every single Ekadashi is promising us, if you just stick with me, I promise you, I'll give you everything. I'll give you more than you could have ever hoped and dreamt and prayed for. I will make the situation better than you could have ever imagined. Because it's not like King Harishchandra had the kingdom taken away one day and then he fasted on Ekadashi the next week. He was miserable for years. The wife and son had died. He was miserable for years. And finally, when he came to a point where he was thinking, I can't do this anymore, and there's no way that I can fix it, what do I do? The Lord still had so much mercy that he sends Vaishnavas. So whenever we're thinking, I can't do this, not one more moment, if we can hang on for just one extra moment and pray, Krishna will send us Vaishnavas. Krishna will send us Srimad Bhagavatam. We just have to decide if we're going to take the medicine or not. Can we make the leap? Are we going to try and do it all on our own like Karna? Or are we going to do it like Arjuna, who says, I don't even think I have all the qualifications for this. And Krishna says, you don't. It's fine. Just stick with me. And Arjuna is saying, but what about all of my characteristics and my identity? Identifying with all of this dharma. He's like, identify with me. Identify with our friendship. And leave the rest to me. I will make everything right. Just remember that I am your best friend. So I continuously ask myself, can I just hold on one more moment? Completely lean into the fact that I can't right this ship on my own. That's never what the purpose of this was. The purpose of this was for me to remember that I cannot do this on my own. but that I've never had to. Because Krishna has always been present within the heart, the source of all remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. It's been right there all along. I've never had to do any of this on my own. That's been the point. To remember that I cannot do this on my own, and that I have never, ever had to. And somehow, to think that I should is a little bit of that arrogance that pops up again. Makes me think, what do you need Krishna for? You can do this all on your own. Don't you know how powerful you are? Don't you know who you are? And on a daily basis, I have to remind my mind to shut up. You are not as powerful as you think you are. And I have to lean into, okay, Krishna, it's you and me. I need something. I need that help. And then when Krishna gives me the help, I have to take it. When Krishna sends me Srimad Bhagavatam, I have to read it. I have to believe it. I have to lean into those stories and remember who I am. Part and parcel of Krishna. I hope that answered the question.
That's beautiful. I really like that. We've never carried it by ourselves. It's never been the truth. And so to live in the fear or the delusion that I am trying or attempting to carry it all by myself is part of the surrender.
Yeah.
To let that go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let go and let Krishna. This is the mantra.
Usually,
I remember.
let go and let Govinda. It sounds
Yeah,
so.
let Govinda, exactly. Yeah. I remember Jayadvaita Maharaj was telling this story how when he was a young devotee, he had his astrology done. He had his karma revealed kind of to him. And his chart said, no home. And he was like, oh, no home, no family, oh, no family, no job, oh, no job. And then he said, and then look at me decades later, no home, but I'm a traveling sannyasi. No family, but I have you. I have disciples. I have Srila Prabhupada. I have my family, job. And it's, look, I'm somehow or other, I'm maintained. And I'm traveling. I have prasadam. I'm happy. So, and he said, the way Krishna works in our life is not he really adjusts the external circumstances according to our imagination, basically. But he makes everything auspicious. Even difficult things, he makes them auspicious, right? When he takes something, when we lose something, we can make it auspicious and capitalize on it, like Jay Dvaita Maharaj. Just a little 5 cents. And I see Madan Gopal Prabhu is here. Madan Gopal Prabhu, would you like to speak?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, my obeisances. Very exciting to be here. I always enjoy Acyuta Gopi's Ekadashi presentations, so I just came to hear. Not really to speak so much. Preparing to fast today, and just reflecting on how merciful Krishna is. In the past, or yogis, they would sit around fires in summer, and in the winter they would go to the Himalayas and dip themselves all day long in water up to their necks, and that's what they did to get self-realization. And Prabhupada said, we don't need to do this, just a little fasting on Ekadashi. That's all the austerity we're asking for. It's not even much of an austerity, really speaking, compared to what we're getting for it. So we should do it with the great enthusiasm. Imagine you got a coupon where you can buy gold that's worth for $20 million, but you get it for $20. It's kind of like that. We have this coupon with us, and we should. I mean, how enthusiastic would you be if you had that coupon right now? So it's kind of like that. Thank you, Haribol.
I agree. I was delving into one of the Puranas, and they were talking about Gayatri mantras, and they were saying if a certain Brahmana had missed their Gayatri mantras, they would have to perform the penance of saying the Gayatri mantra 125,000 times in order to make up for the one missed Gayatri. We're really, really, we have no ability to do anything.
All right. Thank you. Darshan Khan, turn on the cameras. Best look. Stand up if you can.
Jai Shri Radha Murlidhara Ki Jai.
Shri Radha Murlidhara Gopi Sanjana Seva Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shiva Bhagavan Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we continue.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Acyuta Gopi, do you have a few minutes for the Afterglow?
I have like 7 minutes.
7, oh wow. We'll take them all. Okay, Anandi.
I just wanted to say to the Gopi, I missed you so much on Janmashtami because it's very difficult for me to fast. And I read that if you fast on Janmashtami, it's equivalent to so many Akadashis. And also the miracle of Akadashi is amazing. So just remind us again as a tribute to Bodhicitta, that if we dedicate to each other, that it doesn't diminish our merit, but increase our merit, because we all need each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It says that if you have dedicated something to someone on Akadashi, it does return to you like several times fold, because that is the mercy of Akadashi Devi. She's not a goddess who forgets. Coming from the very body of Lord Vishnu, she's not gonna forget or catch us in a trap. She's not normally there just to be like, oh, I got you, and now your life will be miserable. What I really love about Krishna consciousness is the more that you dive into it, it just enhances our lives. And I'm so grateful that I get to spend each Ekadashi with all of you.
And is it true that on Janmashtami, if you fast, it's equivalent to like many, many Akadashis?
They said it was equal to some 10,000 Ekadashis or something like that.
Right.
Which I can't believe it.
Right, that's the only thing that kept me going, because it is very difficult for me to fast. And I thought about everybody who's done so much for me, so I just stuck to it. I mean, that's some gift on Janmashtami. You can't let that sale go by, you know.
Exactly. And we see in the chat, I love a good sale.
Yes, and I kept thinking because I wanted to verify it, and I was, where's Acyuta Gopi? She has to like remind us, is this true?
It's
Is this
true.
really true? Thank you.
Okay, dear devotees, who is the most introverted soul on this call? Who wants you to speak? Who's the most introverted? Seriously? Okay, how about Stephanie? She looks introverted, she looks down. Let's see. Stephanie, what's your takeaway?
All right, Krishna. I'm really not that introverted. The kids could be loud sometimes, so. But I really needed that because, like I've said so many times, would be new, just Maya creeping in, and it could be so overwhelming being the only one in my circle, my family, to have Krishna in their lives knowingly, to not give up, and that he does have a plan. So yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Sometimes I've taken to having conversations with Maya Devi. And I often, sometimes if I really feel like I'm under attack, which I then read the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and realized that once again, that was my arrogance. Because Jiva Goswami says that Maya Devi doesn't actually have to attack us as much as we think. She does two things. She creates the mind and then creates the identification with it. And then unless we are a real big bad demon, she steps back and lets our mind do the whole rest of the job of ripping us to shreds at all times. But there are many times where I go and I will have a conversation. I'll go and pray to Subhadra Devi. You are the epitome of the Lord's Maya potency. You are the goddess from which every essence of Maya emanates. Help me. You understand what it's like. You know what it is. You came and had whole kinds of pastimes. Help me, please. And sometimes I find myself begging for help. Help. Because really, her job is just to ask us, are we sure? Are you sure? Because
Yeah,
unless,
and
why bother it? But yeah.
That's the thing is too, like I think of like so much that I have to overcome. And I think that's what gets to me. It's like, am I qualified? Can I do this? Like, who am I? Like that whole self-talk that just wants to eat me alive. So by you saying that this morning, it was really just Krishna just speaking, because that's exactly what I needed to hear. So thank you.
And the answers to all of those questions are yes. Are you qualified? Yes. Should you do it? Yes. Who are you? Krishna's person. And when we start thinking of ourselves like that, it kind of means something different, Would we talk about any of the gopas or gopis, cowherd boys, cowherd girls, anybody who was living in Vrindavan, would we talk about even the cows that belong to Krishna the way we speak about ourselves? And if any of that is no, then somehow or other we've got to change our self-talk. Because Krishna has already said so many times, you're my person. You're my person. The problem is I refuse to believe him. I'm very, very stubborn. And I absolutely refuse to believe him at all. It's like, you're my person. No, I'm not. Now let me go fight it out until I come back and beg you for help. And then when I come back and beg him for help, I'm his person again. Until the next time when I'm vehemently not. I just have to try and believe him now. And tell my mind, it can take a rest. You can take a rest. Go do something else.
I received the other day, I received a voice message from my Guru Maharaj.
Wow.
we emailed him asking to bless, the child and all that. And I was feeling uneasy about this, healthy, happy, please bless, please pray, Maharaj. And then he sent back this voice message where he said, Ananda Bihari, prayers are real. Said it like that. Prayers work, he said. Acyuta Gopi, thank you so much. It's such a wonderful answer you give all the time. Yes, there are rules. Yes, there is karma. There's this and that, and million times, and repentance and chant and Gayatri if you miss it. But then, if you just surrender to Krishna, it's all overridden. And thank you for that. It has given us hope.
And, why should we not pray for all these things? I mean, the Sanatan Goswami would talk to the Brijabasis, and they would ask him, oh, please pray for my daughter because we're trying to finance the marriage and it's taking a long time and we had to take out a loan. And then Sanatan Goswami would go back and ask, well, how was the wedding? How are your cows? You told me last time this cow was sick, or this time you told me this child was sick. The Brijabasis would go and they would ask Janavamata. She brought a child back from the dead. And then they said, do you know what you just did by the touch of just one touch and your prayers? You brought my son back to life. And she said, I didn't do anything. You prayed to Krishna and prayers helped. So why should we not follow in the footsteps of all of these enlightened souls? And if the Goswamis and the very wife of Lord Nityananda were not above being involved in lives as family members, then we shouldn't think that we are above being involved with each other. We should be so attached to the Vaishnavas because that is our only way out of here.
Well, I'm so like I said that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Acyuta Gopi. Thank you. I'm so glad I mentioned that because you said something very helpful. And what about negative self-talk? What should we do? What's our hotline when we see that we're drowning in this negative self-talk? Who do we call? Can we call Adi? He charges 25 cents per minute for bhakti therapy. Can we call you?
Free? The best TED Talk in all of creation is free. And it is called Bhagavad Gita. And if you open to chapter 14, 16, divine and demoniac natures, and you just read through that chapter, and then they talk about all of the demoniac nature, right? You think about all of those things. And it's kind of a shorter list, right? Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature. And then you think, well, I don't want to have demoniac nature, right? So all the harshness, all of those things, start with the self, right? All of the non-violent things that we would like to bring up, which I was just reading in the Puranas, actually means non-wounding, because it is impossible for, anyhow, it's a very long thing, but it's like non-wounding, yeah? So when we talk about all of the non-violence, which really, according to our Vaishnavacharyas, means non-enviousness and so many other things, then we start with ourselves. And we think, oh, is that my mind being envious of me? Whoa, those are demoniac natures. I kind of want to get rid of that. Time to clean house. Just read through that chapter. And every time Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, oh, don't worry, because you are already endowed with divine qualities. Substitute the Arjuna for your name. It's free. And it is such great therapy because Krishna has a love letter to us, written, spoken, through every single verse of Bhagavad Gita. If we just have the courage to substitute our name in there, because then, the mind's like, well, who are you to substitute your name in there? You're Krishna's person. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts or ways around that. We are living, breathing, thinking, and thus that is the evidence of us being Krishna's person. Even with people we don't agree with. Yeah, they're Krishna's person too. Sorry. I have to tell myself that on a daily basis. Especially when I don't agree with people. I'm like, oh, and that's Krishna's person? He's really merciful, really tolerant, really patient. And if he can tolerate those people, he can tolerate us. Chapter 16, Bhagavad Gita. It's a hotline.
Thank you, Acyuta Gopi. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, it's 8:17. Happy Ekadashi, everybody. Acyuta Gopi, wonderful class. It's so much more than I could have imagined getting from this class. It's always like that. So yeah, thank you so much.
More than
Jeff
beans
Reckler,
and grains.
yeah, more than beans and grains. Yeah. Jeff Reckler, is that a baby car seat? All right, I'll ask him later. Okay. Hare Krishna, Happy Ekadashi, love you all. Haribol, Acyuta Gopi, bowing down to you. Hare Krishna.